from the text, and this is very, very clear, it's written down in the economic text, that around these cat temples, there would be large pens where cats were raised. Catteries.
What were they doing with the cats?
Well...
Hello, friends, and hello, enemies. So, maybe you saw this coming. I'm a big fan of Four Horsemen and a big fan of their Figura Obscura line. We've skipped the past 2 or 3. They all looked really cool, but it wasn't anything that particularly appealed to us. The Ghost of Jacob Marley looks neat. I don't need him. The Mask of the Red Death looks very neat. Too spooky for me. Sun Wukong the Monkey King. I don't like monkeys, and you can tell them I said that. But then Four Horsemen announced that they would be coming out with some sort of Egyptian-themed figure. We surmised that it would be from mythology, and lo and behold, we got not only 1 mythological Egyptian figure, we got 2. These could not be purchased separately. They were sold together as a pack. We also did the all-in, and that includes not only both figures, but a very cool pin set featuring Anubis and Bastet, and an even cooler mug. I really like this style. I'm not sure if it's microwavable safe or not. Probably hand wash only. We don't want to scuff that beautiful applique. So I know everyone was pretty excited about Anubis. From what I hear, Four Horsemen were basically like, well, we have to do Anubis. That's the one everyone's going to want. But I was more excited for Bastet. And you might think that's a girl power thing, but it's not. Though it is nice to see our first female Figura Obscura figure. It's more along the lines that Anubis is pretty prevalent, even in the action figure world. There's already a few Anubis things you can find. Bastet is a little more obscure. You don't really get much Bastet stuff. So I am a little bit more excited for her, but Anubis does look really cool. So I'll stop with the backstory that you guys don't care about and start looking at the packaging. Beautiful, beautiful artwork. Some gold embossed text. On the side you get the same artwork but reversed, so on Bastet's package you get Anubis, vice versa. You get a little text on the back, just briefly explaining some of the mythology, the character, and you even get some credits. I really love it when companies do this. Then you also get this beautiful statue illustration on the other side. And that's also got some really pretty gold embossed text. So both packages will have a magnetic flip cover. You open it up, you can peel the entire thing away to reveal another stunning illustration. Just absolutely beautiful. Four Horsemen figures themselves are just great pieces of art, but then the artwork that goes into the packaging is always so gorgeous. And just to give you guys the full sensory experience, this cover is really sturdy. It's like a matte on the inside too, and I just love that. It really evokes like old papyrus, dusty sands of Egypt. I've never been to Egypt, but I assume it's got dusty sands. It'll be the same with Bastet. Open her up, and you get that beautiful flip cover. They're a little hard to see in there thanks to the glare, but they are in there. Trust me. More gold text. You've got a different illustration of a pharaoh on the side that was hidden by that slipcover. And then on the back, more gorgeous illustrations for Bastet and Anubis. So these items depicted in the illustrations are actual archaeological finds, and we will discuss that more in a moment. So let's go ahead and open them up. I'm going to be gentle here because I do want to keep the packaging. For standard Mythic Legions, the ones in the card-backed packages, it's not so important to me to keep the packaging for those, but for the more deluxe packaging of things like Figura Obscura, it's definitely something that I personally would like to keep. There's this crystalline pyramid illustration. You could slide that out, use that as a backdrop if you so desire. I'm not really into backdrops, though I do like that you have that option. So Bastet comes with 2 clamshells. You get a lot of stuff, just a ton of items. I don't know if you can see that, but her feet are kind of like pigeon-toed together. A true catgirl pose. Ooh. So I did watch Dorklair's unboxing of these, and I've seen a couple other videos, so I'm not going into this blind like I normally do. I kind of know what to expect and what these come with. I also watched a video from Four Horsemen themselves saying to be gentle taking out the accessories, especially this one. So I'm going to be just that. Gentle, not that I'm not usually, but some things require a little bit more care. Now time to open up Anubis. His package is much, much heavier than Bastet's, but I guess that makes sense. They each come with a ton of stuff, and pretty big stuff too. There's some very large accessories in here. This is a little bit difficult to pull from the bottom because there's this arc looking thing here. So once again, we've got a 2 clamshell situation. Like I said, we've also got this thing that was in the bottom that pretty much falls out the minute you open the package. So be careful with that. This will require some assembly. But let's go ahead and get out the rest of our stuff. It's a lot of stuff, and my review space is pretty small. So I'm going to have to shuffle some things around. Bastet's hands came in the clamshell, but his just come in a little bag. How quaint. Alright, as you can imagine, thanks to the sheer amount of stuff they come with, it took a while to get them out of their packages. Bastet doesn't want to stand, so she's stuck in place with blue tack. It just seems to be that one foot is lower than the other one. I haven't quite figured out why. It also doesn't help that they have animal feet. You'd think that larger animal feet would help them stand better, but I haven't found that to be the case. I think they're just oddly proportioned. There's a lot more texture and grooves and stuff on the bottom than the human feet. But yeah, they look amazing. They are beautiful figures. Yeah, you can see Anubis kind of wants to fall forward a little bit. See, they have these pads on the bottom of their feet, and it just doesn't give much of a grounding effect. So yeah, they are beautiful figures. As I predicted, Bastet speaks more to me. I think it's just because I like her color scheme better. They both have more or less the same color scheme, but she's definitely got a lot more of this beigey color, a little bit lighter on the blues. Just visually, it's interesting to me because your eye leads you up this beige outfit into the cat head, whereas Anubis is just like a lot to take in at once. And that, of course, is not a criticism at all. I just like the way your eye is led through Bastet, if that makes sense. But, of course, they both look fantastic. You've got some weathering on those cloth goods, especially on Anubis. He's been through it a little bit, which makes sense. As you've come to expect from anything from Four Horsemen, there is a ton of detail just packed into these. A beautiful doggy face. Lots of nice detail. Love the headdress. Even the interior of the headdress, these grooves right here, have texture to them. They're kind of cracked on the inside. A really cool scale pattern on this torso piece. We've got the winged scarab motif. And this is a really tiny detail, but when you look closely, it's awesome. At the end of this loincloth piece, you've got 2 snakes with red suns over their heads. I also appreciate that these both have tails. If you're going to give me an animal person, I want a tail attached to it. Don't chicken out. And Bastet, of course, is just as lovely. She's got a cute little scarab on her head, some really cute earrings, some cute ears. She's just cute. Similar headdress in a slightly different shade of blue. A really awesome eagle collar. Crazy detail on that. She's got a miniature version of this accessory as a belt, and I believe this is supposed to be like the head of Sekhmet, which is basically another version of Bastet. They were once the same god, but then as the myths evolved, they turned into separate gods. So you've got Bastet, who's primarily lording over cats and fertility and childbirth, and then Sekhmet, who is more of a warrior goddess. Bastet is more of a domestic cat, whereas Sekhmet is a lioness. And Four Horsemen have said that they want to make other gods in the pantheon, so I imagine we'll be seeing a Sekhmet at some point using this body, maybe even the same head sculpt, more or less. And that would be awesome, because I love Sekhmet. I think she's really cool. I do wish we got a snarling head for Bastet, and I'll get into the heads in a moment, but we get one for Anubis. We don't get one for Bastet, but I think like a really gnarly, like angry cat face would look so cool. Just fangs bared. Really nice detail and paintwork on these wraps. There's even some detail up top that you can't really see because her collar obscures it. I guess if you take off her collar you could see it better, but there's just a different detail on top of that wrap. She's got a tail too, and it is so cute. It transitions into that really beautiful skin tone to a nice kind of lavender blue. And their tails do have wires in them, so you can pose them a little bit. They both come with animalistic hands and feet. You can see the feet kind of fade into that darker head and tail color. The animalistic hands are just hands with claws, but they each come with normal human feet and normal human hands. But I say, don't be a coward. You want an animal-headed person, but you don't want them to have animal feet? Come on, get over yourself. I also like how veiny her hands are. You don't often see female characters with like veiny hands, but it gives her kind of an intensity. In addition to the beautiful clothing on them, these soft goods are wired, so you can kind of bend them in different shapes. The wire on Anubis, I feel, is especially stiff. Maybe that's just because he has a shorter skirt. Underneath you can see the continuation of that scale pattern. That's so cool. These are just chock full of detail. Beautiful, beautiful pieces. So let's look at articulation really quick, and then I will get into everything they come with. With this headdress on, you're not going to get much movement. And I think there is an option for Bastet to have the headdress off. So we'll look at that more closely in a moment. But yeah, with it on, there's a pretty big limit to what you can do. Rotation on the arm, it can rotate all the way around. Single elbow, so don't push it too far. A little bit of twist at that torso. More twist at the waist. A little bit of crunch. Probably just by virtue of the kind of joint that's there. Man, look at those thighs. I would kill to have thighs like that. Yeah, pretty good movement on those. Single knee, back and forth, and rock on the ankle. Of course, we've got swivel on the wrist, and then a vertical hinge on that. And then, as I mentioned, the tail is wired, so you can curl it a bit. You get a little bit more head movement out of Anubis, but I think that's because his neck is a separate piece. Of course, you also get up and rotate on his arm. Single elbow. Rotation and up and down at the wrist. He doesn't have that upper torso movement, but he still has the waist movement. Leg up. Very far out to the side. Far out to the back. He's got a twist up there too. Oop, his tail came off. I didn't plug it in well enough. We'll shove that right back in a moment. Knee. And the same kind of ankle movement. So yeah, kind of basic movement on these guys, but not bad at all. When you're looking at something this detailed, you kind of have to make concessions. I mean, there's some ultra detailed figures that have a ton of articulation that you're able to get into all sorts of poses, but they also have a lot of cuts, and messing around with them can be difficult at times, like the Reveltech or the SH Monster Arts line. So let's look at accessories. There's a lot to go through. First, we'll cover the boring stuff. Hands. So many hands. And feet. So yeah, they both have human feet. These are Bastet's feet. She comes with a ton of hands. Animalistic holding hands. And then just a bunch of human hands without the claws. You've got some holding hands on different axes and some relaxed reaching out hands on different axes. Pretty much every kind of hand you could want. Same for Anubis. His come in this nice little baggie. He's got some reaching animal hands. Some holding things, animal hands, and then these holding hands that will be on a different axis. I prefer when the hands come in little baggies rather than the clamshell. I know they just did it differently for Anubis because he had like a bulkier stuff, but yeah, so he will also come with human feet. This is just for you weirdos out there. Don't let it be said that I never showed Anubis's feet on this channel. So we have 3 different head portraits for Bastet. You've got one that's basically just the one she has now, but without the headdress, and it's bare in the back. There's no weird like plug. You'll see with Anubis, I think all of his heads have a plug that plug into that headdress. This one for Bastet does not, so you can have her headdressless. Same with this one, no plug in the back. This one is interesting. It's a little bit less ornamented, but it's very cute. It's more of like a kittenish head to me. It's a little bit more realistic. She looks a little bit younger. Her eyes are a little wider. She's got the eyelash makeup. The golds on these are just beautiful. Man, I'm a sucker for blue and gold together. And then you've got another one of those heads, but it comes with the plug for the headdress. So you've got a few different options for Bastet, and that is really cool. I still do wish they had included like a snarling, hissing cat head. I do understand why they wouldn't do that for Bastet, but maybe if they release a Sekhmet in the future, they'll have one for her. I just think that would look so awesome. Cats are scary. As I covered in one of my last reviews, I recently watched a stray cat devour an entire mouse. The entire thing, except for the tail. The tail is unpalatable, but the entire rest of the mouse is fine. Fun fact, I'm adopting that cat. Her name is Toasty. Anyway, so here is the snarling Anubis head, and it looks awesome. Just, of course, ham with the details. The inside of the mouth, the tongue, the fangs. Looks amazing. Very, very scary, actually. Beautiful dry brushing, too. These are just such good figures. Man, I love them. You also get this, which is interesting. It's more of a statue-like head. It's kind of crumbling a little bit. You can see cracks. It also comes with a different neck piece, where it's transitioning from that skin tone into the cracked statue material, and that's really cool. That's a really interesting choice. I think both versions of the heads look amazing. I might prefer this one more just because of the profile. It's such a cute little like sharp snoot, and I'm a sucker for these gold lines in the ear. Alright, accessories. There are a lot of them. So I think for the most part these accessories are based on real artifacts that have either been found or depicted in Egyptian god artwork. Each figure comes with this really awesome little booklet kind of describing the gods, retelling some of their tales, just kind of letting you know what it's all about. And then there are passages detailing some of these recreated artifacts. So they'll each come with these canopic jars, and this is what the Egyptians would use to put internal organs in when they were mummifying someone. And these do open. The tops come off. They're hollow inside. You can put things in there. What you put in there is up to you. I'm not going to judge, and I'm not going to call the police. So Anubis comes with one with his own head on it. A little conceited, if you ask me. Bastet will come with 3 different ones. This one that has a pharaoh head on it. And I love the pitting on this. Just the detail on these things is next level. It's insane. Another one featuring the head of a baboon. I think this might be Thoth, who is often depicted as an ibis, is also sometimes depicted as a baboon. I think I'd rather be a bird than a baboon, but I don't know. Birds, if you're the wrong bird, you could have a pretty bad existence. And then you've got one with what I believe is Horus on it. So really cool little jars. Anubis comes with an ankh, of course. Love the metallic gold on that. He's got a scepter that's been depicted in some artworks of him. Very cool detail on that. Really pretty color. It looks like it's made of jade. You've got the Wadjet Eye pectoral, which the booklet says would be worn by the pharaoh. You've got another Horus here, along with what I thought was a Sekhmet head, but is a wooden leopard head. And in artwork, Bastet is often seen carrying these 2 items. You've got a basket to symbolize fertility, and a sistrum, which is some kind of instrument, some kind of rattle type instrument. Really interesting. I've never seen such a thing. It's got a really cool shape though. And then you've got the Aegis of Sekhmet. So this is meant as a kind of like collar or necklace, but it's set up here on this handle, so she or Anubis could hold it. But that is not all. So Bastet comes with this beautiful cat statue. This is called the Geir Anderson statue. Major Geir Anderson donated this statue to the British Museum in like the 1930s. And so yeah, this is based on a real artifact, and it is just so cool looking. I always think about like artists in ancient history, sculptors, painters, things like that. Like, man, I could do that. I could have been a really well-known ancient sculptor. Maybe not, because I'm a woman. I guess it depends on the society. Think about a sculptor working hard to make something like this, and then ages and ages in the future, we're recreating it in plastic as part of like an action figure set. It's bizarre if you think about it. Like, that's something that the sculptor of the real thing could never even conceive of. Or maybe I'm not giving the guy enough credit. Maybe all he thought about was action figures. It just wasn't the right time. Finally, we've got the Anubis Shrine, and this is by far the largest piece. It dwarfs even the figures themselves, and it is beautiful. That bronze gold, the pitting, the weathering, the Anubis statue on top. So this would have been painted black and then accented with gold leaf. His little tail hanging down, so cute. Yeah, beautiful piece. I mean, I feel like I keep saying the words beautiful and gorgeous and whatever, but it's true. So the top does come off. As you saw, this did require a little bit of assembly, but it wasn't difficult. The only problem I ran into was that Anubis here has pegs in him, and they didn't quite want to line up with the lid. That took a little bit of doing. So that's very cool. You could put some of these accessories in this if you wanted. So I really love the way they look now, but just for review's sake, I'm going to switch out some heads and some hands and stuff, see how easy or how difficult that is, and get back to you. Alright, so here we just have some alternate looks. I switched out their feet and some hands and heads. And it was all pretty easy. I didn't really run into any trouble. But this is what I'm talking about with Anubis. Every head has this peg in the back for the headdress. If you don't want the headdress and don't want to see the peg, you're going to have to position him in a certain way. But for Bastet, you don't need the headdress. She's got that smooth head in the back. For me, it's not a problem because I prefer the headdress for sure. They look more interesting with it. But it is cool that you get so many options. I accidentally gave Bastet one human hand and one animal hand. That's okay, they're gods. They get up to all sorts of nonsense. So now it's time for everyone's favorite segment, Comparison Corner. First up, we've got Hasbro Indiana Jones. But that's not all. We've also got NECA's The Mummy. We're looking at a lot of very beige folks. Indy scales pretty well, actually. The Mummy is a little bit too large, but Mummy Mikey might fit a little bit better because he is a monster. I mean, the Mummy's a monster too, but Mikey is also a giant mutant turtle. He's also a little bit shorter than the Mummy, so he fits in a little bit better. But I could definitely see Indy meeting these two. And next up, we've got Marvel Legends Moon Knight. And the Build-A-Figure Khonshu, who is so big that he's not even fitting in my review space. He gets to be behind everyone because he's so big. Once again, the scale is not bad here. Khonshu may be a little bit large, considering these two are also supposed to be gods. He looks a little bit overpowered and imposing in comparison. He's also a jerk, that's why I love Khonshu. We also have another Anubis from TB League Fison. A little bit smaller. This one is made of silicone, but just as detailed, maybe even more buff. And finally, because you need a crocodile to feed your reject hearts to, we've got Fiona, and she's just chilling back there. So that's about it for these two. A really cool set with tons of accessories. I mean, the figures alone are amazing, but then you've got all the accessories. They were pricey, but not super expensive for what you get, which I feel like tends to be the case with Four Horsemen drops. And yeah, I love them. Bastet for sure is the standout figure for me. She's just so beautiful and elegant, but of course Anubis is amazing too. Like with all the other Figura Obscura drops, we'll probably be seeing a retailer package in the future, so we might be seeing these two in different colors, maybe as a variation, maybe they're transformed into different gods, like maybe Bastet is turned into Sekhmet, so it'll be interesting to see what happens there. But yeah, probably my favorite Figura release yet. So if you made it this far, thank you so much for watching. Likes and subscribes are very much appreciated, comments are more than welcome. I will see you guys on the next one.